Hello there, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. So we've got lots to go at this week. There's some really good racing on Racing TV throughout the last 7 days. Notably, some good stuff at the Curragh yesterday, where Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien bagged a 4-timer. But we're going to concentrate mainly on what happened at Newmarket at the Cambridgeshire meeting. We'll also go to Haydock Park as well. And it's at Newmarket where we start on the first day of the Cambridgeshire meeting, where the rain came down and the times were pretty slow. And we certainly ended on heavy ground. You can see that final time index score of 1.22. That is a very poor score out of 10. It's a function of pace, but it's a function of the ground as well. 2 races we're going to have a look at. RaceiQ in the first race over a mile, a 2-year-old getting a good score really, 4.7, average for the day 3.42. And Nayyir put up a really good staying performance for the Tom Clover team in race number 5 over 2 miles, producing an average sort of time, but he was really impressive. We'll have a look at him shortly after RaceiQ in the first race of the Cambridgeshire meeting, winning for the Rafe Beckett team. This horse exited a race at Goodwood that is working out particularly well. Let's have a look at it from the start. RaceiQ from 3 beats Present Times from 8 and Devil's Advocate from 7. Those two, the second and third, both newcomers for Godolphin and are both worthy of note for the future. RaceiQ, with the benefit of experience, was quickly away in the early part of the race. Fastest to get to 20 miles an hour, took 2.64 seconds, whereas Present Times was slowly away. 4th fastest, 2.95 seconds. And Devil's Advocate was even slower away, held up out the back. A race run in torrential rain. And as is the norm at Newmarket generally, horses that race prominently are very favoured. And RaceiQ was always up there and made every yard of the running here. Now, how was this race run? Well, it was quite steadily run in the early part of the contest, and it turned into a dash. And therefore, you can immediately see that Devil's Advocate in last, Kieran Schumacher, is in a very poor position the way the race was run. It turned into a little bit of a sprint, and the horse that sprinted best was the horse on the lead, although Present Times in second place does throw down a big challenge inside the final quarter mile. Beginning to wind the pace up now in front. RaceiQ, with the benefit of experience, quickens first and goes through the 7th furlong, 11.68. Now that is the penultimate furlong, and that is just too much. The rivals in behind. Look how much the third horse has got to do from there under Kieran Schumacher. He's got a big, high, round action. He was suited to the conditions. Here's where Present Times looks like he's going to throw down a challenge, but RaceiQ is just too strong. His finishing speed percentage through the final couple of furlongs, 105.68. What does that tell us? Well, he's 5.68% quicker in the last couple of furlongs than the early part of the race. The par is just under 100, so he's well above what you would expect for a race of this quality for 2-year-olds on the Rowley Mile. So they have gone steady. It's enabled him to save energy for a fast finish, and he's going away a little bit from Present Times in the closing stages. Has to be added that Present Times was a little bit keen in the early part of the race, but he's on debut, he can be forgiven, he'll win a race. The third horse was the real eye-catcher. Through the final couple of furlongs, he was the 2nd fastest in the race, and he's definitely one for your Racing TV trackers. Devil's Advocate, he's run really well, but that big round action in 3rd place might suggest that he's always going to want some cut in the ground. There's the win time, bottom of your screen, 1:42.25. It's above the RaceiQ par. It's above what we would expect under these conditions at Newmarket over this mile trip. But that's because of the steady early gallop, which didn't lend itself to a good final time. I think overall, the ground was a little bit softer than officially given. I think it was definitely soft. There was no good in it whatsoever. And by the end of the day, it was heavy. But RaceiQ sprinted quickly through that final 2 furlongs, 5% quicker in the last quarter mile than the rest of the race, as evidenced by the RaceiQ details. 2.64 seconds to get to 20 miles an hour for the winner, 38.55 miles an hour in that penultimate furlong, that furlong that we highlighted, that 11.68. You can see Devil's Advocate, your tracker horse, 11.69 through the same furlong, but did it from way back, was miles further back than Sea Cruiser. Too much to do, and his finishing speed percentage better than the winner. But again, he couldn't close the winner down because he was too far back in the early part of the race. He'll win next time, you'd have thought, as long as he gets cut in the ground, and Sea Cruiser looks pretty useful. The best time performance of the week, and one of the most impressive performances of the week, came from Nayyir at Newmarket on day one of the Cambridgeshire meeting. Now with Tom Clover, he put up a spectacular performance in the Jockey Club Rose Bowl Stakes. He's in the white sleeves, red cap with the stars on the body towards the rail, and he gets the better of Harbour Wind, who's last at this stage with the sheepskin noseband on. This race was evenly run in the early part of it. We've picked them up a mile out, and they're just beginning to turn on the taps. In front is Fighter under Ryan Moore for Aidan O'Brien, who'd gone keenly in the early part of the race, and pressed by the free-sweating Beamish between horses. Nayyir sat in behind, waiting for some running room, and when he gets a gap, and he sees daylight, he picks up the bridle again, and you'll see how strongly he's going once Luke Morris gets him into the clear. It's just his second run for Tom Clover. You remember he was second on his first run for Tom in the Lonsdale Cup behind Vauban. He was second in the Dubai Gold Cup as well behind Tower of London. He's a classy stayer. And look now, look at him pick the bridle up here. He's absolutely tanking with Luke Morris. This is not necessarily a very strong race, but he's tanking along. Look at his final 3 furlongs, 38.68, 40.99 for the runner-up, Harbour Wind, towards the outside. He's way quicker than Harbour Wind, who possibly didn't quite see out the trip and might have been a bit below form. Here's his penultimate furlong of 12.68. Doesn't seem very quick, does it? But it was too much in the conditions for his rivals. And look, the way Luke Morris is looking around, looking between his legs, he could have gone faster. 101.39 the finishing speed percentage, so 1.39% quicker in the last 3 furlongs than the early part of the race. And that tells us that he has finished quite strongly for a staying race, but boy, could he have finished a lot more quickly than he did if Luke Morris had really asked him a question. Overall time, nothing flashed, 3:34.56, 6.89 above par. Given this was quite evenly run, this race, that time suggests that the ground was heavy by this stage of the afternoon, and he seemed to relish it. There's a lot of soft ground influence in the downside of his pedigree, the dam being by Manduro. That's where the liking for soft ground comes from, and I think he's very interesting going forward. He's going to lay down, I think, the biggest challenge of the season that Kyprios has faced so far in what is the stayers at the Kipco meeting at Ascot. I think he could lay down a big challenge in that long distance cup, for which he's generally available at 6-1. He looks rock solid each way against Kyprios. Have to up his game just a little bit, of course, to beat the brilliant Kyprios. But that was some performance from him at Newmarket. A revelation, I think, now that he's encountered really soft ground. He seemed to love it. Here's the data to sum up what he achieved. And you can see from this that he, in the closing stages, doesn't slow down as quickly as Harbour Wind. Look at the lines towards the end of this particular graph. Each dot represents a furlong through the race, quite evenly run. It's quite an even line. But when we get to the end of the race, Nayyir, you can see that line just goes straight, just goes down towards mile 7. He's getting a little bit quicker in that penultimate furlong, whereas Harbour Wind, the line going right up, is getting slower and slower towards 14 and 15 seconds. He maintains his pace a lot longer. If you shaded that area between the lines right at the end, mile 7 to 2 miles, you'll see the difference between how well they finished their races. Nayyir, really impressive for Tom Clover, who reported on Luck on Sunday that he'd come out of his race really well, and it's all roads leading to Ascot for him. We're just going to turn our attentions to Haydock for a moment now on Friday afternoon, and we're going to have a look at the performance of a debutant, a 2-year-old, in the third contest on the card, as shaded white there. The trip was at 6 furlongs. The final time, nothing special. The time index score of 3.74. The average on the day, pretty good, 5.28. That low score, courtesy of a steady gallop. But what we saw was an impressive success for this William Haggis-trained 2-year-old. Nardra Kieran Fallon was on board, and she came from stall number 1. Sweet Fantastic was second from 4. Top Bins was third from stall number 3. Let's have a look and see how she got into her stride and got going. She just jumped a little bit to her left, and she was slowest to get up to 20 miles an hour. It took her 2.84 seconds. But she was on debut, but thereafter she tanks along through this race and comes home really strongly for an impressive success. Overall, I think it's fair to say this was not a strongly run race. They went quite steady in conditions that were quite sapping. They were getting their toe in, and it was quite hard work for a lot of them in the closing stages. But here, off this steady gallop, she sprints to an 8.5 length success on debut. Now, you don't often see that, and this is really impressive. 104.12 her finishing speed percentage, so she's just over 4% quicker in the last couple of furlongs than she was in the early part of the race, which was steadily run. So she's saving energy for a fast finish, but so are all of the others. And watch what she does when she's unleashed here by Kieran Fallon. Her 5th furlong was 12.33. Now that was her fastest furlong. It seems quite slow, doesn't it? We expect things like 11.5 or 11.2, or perhaps under 11s when we get decent ground. But that's a function of the ground, and it was too much for her rivals, as was the 12.78, 6th furlong. And now just look at her clear away. She changed legs and she flew away from her rivals. The second horse is Sweet Fantastic. He's quite nicely bred. There'll be more to come from her. But really, this performance ultimately suggests that Nardra could almost run in group company now. Even this just being her debut, I think she could take the step up. Time, 1:18.42. It's just over 2 seconds above the RaceiQ par, so above what you'd expect for a race of this standard. But that's because of that very steady early gallop and because of the sapping conditions. But she relished it, she loved it, she quickened up in grand style in the closing stages, and William Haggis has got a very nice filly on his hands. I'm not sure where he's going to go with her. And, well, people will say, well, what did she beat? Well, I prefer to say, well, how fast did she run? And that was very fast. She showed a bright turn of foot. Nothing else could quicken under the conditions. So let's have a look at the RaceiQ data just to sum up what this filly achieved. And she's definitely one for your trackers. She's a really good filly, I think. She's the only one to finish above 100% in terms of her finishing speed percentage, 104.12. None of the others could finish fast. They're all getting tired, they're all slowing down. She's the only one hitting the line strongly. She got to 36.56 miles an hour at one point through the 4th furlong. But that 12.33 fastest furlong, and the 12.37 after that in the final furlong, way too much for her rivals. And you don't often see an 8.5 length success in a race like this. She's worth following. Saturday's card at Newmarket was a stellar one. Of course, it was Cambridgeshire Day, and we'll get to the chaos of the Cambridgeshire a little bit later on. But first of all, we're going to concentrate on a couple of really nice 2-year-olds. Here are the RaceiQ Time Index scores for the day. Much better than they were on Thursday when we had a look at El Nayyir and Sea Cruiser winning. These are much higher scores. The ground had dried out considerably. I think we were on good to soft ground by Saturday. And we are going to look at the Cheveley Park. It was won by Lake Victoria, 8.12, the best time on the card on the day, and she was wildly impressive. We'll look at Shadow of Light as well, who took the Middle Park with a 7.54, and finally the Cambridgeshire itself. We'll have a look at Liberty Lane, winning that for the prolific Carl Burke. But we start with what is, I think, a brilliant performance from Lake Victoria. She came from stall 7. She beat Daylight from 3 and Arabian Dusk from stall number 1. And she has done this in tremendous fashion, propelling herself to the top of the 1,000 guineas market. And if you've got a ticket at 3-1 or bigger, you are sitting very pretty. This filly won last time up over 7 furlongs at the Curragh, where she quickened from the back of the field to win going away. But she showed loads of speed there. She featured on the verdict. Her turn of foot marked her out as being useful that day, and it's her turn of foot and the raw speed that she shows here that puts her rivals away. Ryan Moore didn't drop her out as she was dropped out of the Curragh. He decided to go forward, sensible at this track. You need to be forward here. Look at the speed she's shown. This is a strong renewal of the Cheveley Park. You've got the unbeaten Babouche trying to challenge between horses, but now into the dip. Watch her quicken and fire an 11.26 second furlong. Now she goes. Nothing can live with her. She's away and gone. Babouche in the pink cap, bit disappointing, but encountering soft ground for the first time, or ground this soft for the first time. The final 2 furlongs, 23.6 for this winner as she hits the line hard. She's very fast, but we know she stays 7 furlongs, so there's going to be a load more to come from her. She has absolutely thrashed a very good field for the Cheveley Park. And look at her win time, 1:11.94, 1.8 under the RaceiQ par. This is a tremendous performance on the clock. Finishing speed percentage, 101.62. Why is it not higher than that if I'm telling you that she's finished strongly and sprinted through the final 2 furlongs? It's because the race was quite evenly run, and it allowed her to just quicken up, and nothing else could quicken. The horses run evenly. They produce their best efforts, and this was her best effort of her career to date by some way. The best time index score of the day at Newmarket. And through that final 2 furlongs, she was 0.4 of a second better than her closest rival. 0.4 of a second. She's way better than her nearest pursuer, which was Daylight in second place. She's unbeaten in 4 starts now. She's favourite for the 1,000 guineas, and she really deserves to be. And it was interesting what Ryan Moore said afterwards. He said to Aidan, they should perhaps try the Fillies Mile next for her, and that surely is an attempt just to see whether she'll stay a mile, and they'll be set fair for the guineas next season. I think she's going to be really hard to beat in that. If you've got a ticket with a decent price on after her current success, well done to you, because she is a very nice filly. Let's have a look at the data that she produced, and it just tells us that she was way better than all of her rivals. It was an evenly run race, so it produced a good final time, but she quickened up with an 11.24 seconds through the 3rd furlong, and the 5th furlong she was 11.26. Sustained speed from her towards the 4, sensibly ridden as ever by Ryan Moore, and she reached the top speed in the race of 40.51 miles an hour. She is really good. She's just about the best 2-year-old, I think, that we have seen so far, and that includes the Colts. Okay, same trip for the Colts in the Middle Park, so 6 furlongs up the Rowley Mile, so this race can bear comparison with what Lake Victoria achieved in the Cheveley Park. Not as strong a race, I don't think, as the Cheveley Park in terms of depth, but a good one nonetheless, with Whistlejacket going off favourite. Let's have a look and see what unfolded. So, they jumped pretty quick, and Whistlejacket upsides the eventual winner, Shadow of Light. Those two are pulling clear ultimately from Dash Dizzy, who's over on the far side and finishes in 3rd place. This race was comparable with the Cheveley Park in terms of time. It was slower than what was achieved by Lake Victoria. She completed 6 furlongs in 1:11.94. This was 1:12.29. So a fair bit slower, because it was run at a more steady gallop, more sedate gallop than the Lake Victoria race, the Cheveley Park, and it turned into a real test of speed. Indeed, Ryan Moore said after riding Whistlejacket into 2nd place, he could have done with them going a bit harder in the early part of the race, like they did in the July Stakes when Whistlejacket won that race over on the July course. Shadow of Light towards the stand side, about to quicken up. This is a very fast horse, 11.27 seconds through the 4th furlong, while still going quite easily upsides Ryan Moore. And then William Buick asked him to go in the dip, and his penultimate furlong of 11.13, really fast, faster than anything Lake Victoria was able to achieve. He's got a sharp turn of foot, and he is all about speed. The steady early gallop allowing him to save energy and then quicken and go clear inside the final furlong. Win time of 1:12.29. It's 1.4 under par. Not as good as Lake Victoria, but still a very good time. And you can see Lake Victoria's finishing speed percentage was about 101. He's 104.62. So he finished quicker than she did because he was able to save more energy in what was a steadily run race early on. This was impressive. He was beaten in the Gimcrack. He was a little bit disappointing when he lost out there, but he's back to his best here. The Gimcrack being his only defeat of his career so far, and there could be more to come from him. When sprinting, Connections thinking about a Guineas trial next season for him, but he's got loads of speed in his pedigree, and the Commonwealth Cup was mentioned, and that might be the better route for this horse, because I think he's got loads of speed, which he was able to flash in quite a steadily run race, and he's all about speed. That quick furlong that he fired just above 11 seconds put this race to bed, and I think the Commonwealth Cup might be the better option for him. Look, he's a free-going guy. Look at all the gear he wears with his cross noseband on. He's a horse who wants to get on with things. He might just ultimately be a sprinter, whereas Lake Victoria settles a little bit better. We already know she stays 7 furlongs. She'll probably get a mile. This horse possibly more of a Commonwealth Cup prospect. But it was impressive what he did there on the Rowley Mile. And one other point really would be that he's perhaps suited by just getting his toe in a little bit. Good to soft ground on the Saturday at Newmarket. So probably a bit quick for him at York on Gimcrack Day. So here's what he achieved. You can see those finishing speed percentages. They're all above 100. They've all saved energy for a fast finish. 11.13. That's a quick furlong, really quick and good to soft ground. That's why I've got him down as just a fast horse, probably a sprinter. And look at his top speed, 40.68. Nothing could break 39 miles an hour except for him. He's a really fast horse. Time for the big race on Saturday afternoon. The Cambridgeshire Handicap, over 9 furlongs on the Rowley Mile. And, well, it was a very interesting race as far as the draw was concerned and how things panned out. Let's have a look at it, and our focus will be very much on the far side. There you go, Liberty Lane, the winner from 4. James McHenry, second from 2. Toy Me Son, third from 11. And I can tell you that Benito was 4th from 6, and Anderley was 5th from 3. All of the action over towards the far side. You're looking for the yellow colours of Liberty Lane, far side, under Clifford Lee. For guess who? Carl Burke, fresh from his 1-2-3 in the Air Gold Cup on the previous Saturday. They split into 3 groups, Mr. King taking them along towards the stand side, and I think they went quite hard on the stand side. If you look at the data, overall, this was a race that was strongly run. It was very fast through the first 4 furlongs, with what I call in the green zone, going quick, and they finished quite tired. They finished slowly because the early gallop was really quick, and that can happen when jockeys on one side in one group are keeping tabs on the others on the other side and not wanting to get behind, so they all perhaps tend to go a little bit too fast. But Liberty Lane was always prominent from his draw in stall number 4, and he cantered his way to the front, and then he sauntered clear in the style of a group horse, really. He's better than a handicapper. He'd won at Newmarket in the spring. He'd run well at York last time up, where he was a bit too gassy after a bit of a layoff. You can see there on that angle, it looks like Mr. King's stand side is ahead, but as the stagger unwinds, Liberty Lane is in front. His 8th furlong, 11.8. You can rate that as being slow as against the RaceiQ par sectionals, but nonetheless, they've gone so hard that horses are weakening all around him, and he's able to back it up with a slow 13.2 second furlong, but everything else was gassed in behind. He was the only one who hit the line hard. He stayed on really well in the closing stages from James McHenry. Toy Me Son's had a good season for David Menuisier. He won at the Qatar Goodwood Festival. He's run on well for 3rd spot, but it was really the far side that held sway throughout. Who did best of the stand side? Well, it was Waiting All Night from stall 34. But those in that group had absolutely no chance the way the race was run. And we know it was strongly run because of the finishing speed percentage, 99.48. 99.48, so just under 100, just getting a little bit tired in the closing stages, as evidenced by that slow final furlong from Liberty Lane. The par for 9 furlongs here on the Rowley Mile, 102.39, so a bit under par for the way they finished the race, but that's the strong early gallop that's done that. Jockeys looking across and worried about whether the other side's in front. It causes them to sort of step on the gas, perhaps more than they normally would. This is a decisive winner off top weight in the Cambridgeshire. That's why you've got to conclude that he's going to be a group horse going forward. The Balmoral handicap is a possibility, one would guess, at the Kipco Champions meeting. at Ascot. They might just be tempted by a group race now, though. I think he could easily cut it in one of those group races because he's getting better all the time. He seems to be improving and he's lightly raced. And there's Carl Burke. He really is the man of the moment. So we'll sum that up. It was a really decisive success in a very competitive handicap. All of those finishing speed percentages under 100, courtesy of the fast gallop. They went early on. You can see he was quite quickly away out of the stalls. Fourth fastest, 2.48 seconds. Thereafter, he was always prominent. And you've got to get all the way down, left-hand column, to waiting all night for a horse drawn high to vaguely get involved in the race. Low draws had it throughout the Bet365 Cambridgeshire. Being over there was very important. Great stuff. I hope you've enjoyed looking back at the verdict this week. I thought Al Nayyir was very impressive at Newmarket, and the Long Distance Cup at Ascot is an interesting option for him up against Kyprios. Can't wait to see that clash. Lake Victoria, she deserves to be 1,000 guineas favourite after what she did in the Chivdi Park. A very strong renewal of that race, and she was mightily impressive. Shadow of Light, also impressive as well. And there's a few horses for your Racing TV tracker also. And as far as that is concerned, have a look at my verdict extra column on the website on Wednesday. For now, though, it's goodbye from me. I'll see you next week.